but go
Yeah,
on.
the shoes on the other foot, and you can just cringe away when I describe you as the emerging force in inspiring and motivating people in the world, not only Ireland. But it's lovely work that you're doing, and thanks for coming along with us for the last 3 weeks. And yeah, week 1 awareness, week 2 resourcing, week 3 challenges, and then this week 4 is living fully. And I think, yeah, do you have anything else you want to say, John?
No, except I now know how it feels.
It doesn't feel nice, yeah.
Given that I spent around, like, not only every week in Rise, but also in the predecessor series, Walking Together Through Mud, I would have described Barry as the emerging force of mindfulness in Ireland, which I enjoyed thoroughly. Barry less so. So yeah. After 11 weeks, you finally got to allow me to see how it feels. So thank you for the perspective. I know now how you feel. Now I just have to live up to that billing, which is fine. Welcome everyone. Today is the last day in Rise, as Barry said, and it's all about living fully. It's all about how we can bring this all together that we've spoken about as we finish up here, and as you start to move independently in terms of bringing this together for yourself. So, like, living fully is such an overarching statement. It's so big. To try and simplify it, I just wanted to leave you with 2 thoughts today about how you can live fully. First is bringing a compassionate commitment to anything that can provide a foundation to allow you to live fully. And I'll explain what I mean by compassionate commitment in a moment. And then the second thing is about just trying to set core intentions for how you'd like to live fully, and let them almost be like seeds that will grow in your life to allow a sense of living fully. And I'll explain that secondly. So firstly, like, compassionate commitment, what do I mean by that? I think in week 2, when we talked about the resourcing, I mentioned to everyone, like, that, to have resources is good in theory. However, the only way that they can become good, we were talking about tools and about the idea, the metaphor of sharpening tools, is through practice. And for me, in my experience of trying to live life fully, I would say the same about, like, not just mindfulness, but anything that allows, me to kind of stay good and grounded and be a foundation for living life fully. For me, the only way they can do that is through commitment. A commitment to regularly tap into them, to regularly use them. So yes, mindfulness is one of those aspects, but for you, it might be actually other things as well as that. Like, for example, your exercise, like, for example, your diet and what you eat, what you choose to read and what you choose to ignore by way of what's helpful for you to stay good and grounded. So my honest advice to you is that the only way that they can provide a kind of an anchoring foundation to live life fully is through commitment. Okay, so let me just provide you with an example. In week 2, we talked about resourcing, and we talked about satisfaction being one, and I mentioned that gratitude is a great way to build satisfaction, a sense of satisfaction in life, which can help create a very sort of grounding perspective, and also help see a positive outlook, particularly when that might be challenging. So for me, I set on a journey a few years ago about trying to develop a commitment around gratitude for myself. And I would have shown this to people in the previous series. However, so this is what I used. So it's a gratitude journal. Okay. So basically there's 160 pages in this journal, and each page has 6 entries. Okay, so has 6 entries. Every page has 6 entries. So that's 160 pages with 6 entries so 5 entries per day. So that's 960 days that I've taken a moment in the day, typically for me at the end of the day, to write 5 reasons in that day that I was grateful for something that happened. And what I found, interestingly, I was doing a session during the week and around career choices for a group of interns. And one of the things I wanted to try and find for them was a tool on how they can understand their strengths. So it's called Virtues in Action, was the tool that I shared with them. And I hadn't done it myself in around 4 or 5 years. So I actually went and did the assessment, and they tell you kind of what your biggest strengths are. And they also tell you what your primary strengths are. And on Tuesday morning, Virtues and Actions told me that my greatest strength that I have is gratitude. Now, I did that same strength test around 4 or 5 years ago, and I can honestly say that gratitude did not feature at all as a strength. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you can commit to anything, including mindfulness, if you believe it's part of your solution, that can allow you to live life fully, it can have a very powerful and positive impact. It does require commitment. So that would be one of the key takeaways I'd love you to take from Rise. The reason why I say compassionate commitment is because I think we have to be gentle and kind, as Barry would have outlined last week. You know, the spirit of kindness. We have to be kind to ourselves around this commitment. Like, for example, there'd be many days where perhaps I might have, I'd always do at the end of an evening, like I might have been out visiting with friends or whatever, just, out socially, and, come home and I'd just be too tired to actually put something in the diary. And, instead of kind of beating myself up going, oh, you have to just go, you know what, it's okay. Just do it tomorrow, or do it when you get a chance. So there might be times when you just not get what you hoped to do in a day, or perhaps sometimes I'd use swimming as a part of my of what keeps me grounded. And if I don't get to swim in a day, it's just to go, that's okay. That's been a graduation for me to move away from like being hard. So you must do it. So to be compassionate around the commitment to those things that will help you be good and grounded and to live life fully. That's the second thing. So this sense of compassionate commitment is the one of the two key things that I wanted to share. The second thing then that I feel is so important to live life fully is like a sense of motivation, providing a sense of motivation for yourself. Now, up until around Wednesday morning, I would have probably said to you that you should consider creating a vision for life, a very clear vision that outlines what you want to achieve so that it allows life to feel full. And on Wednesday morning, before the session I was doing for the interns, I actually watched a talk by Eckhart Tolle, really good, I guess, speaker on the field of mindfulness, on the field of living in the now. And he talked about manifestation, which is what you want to bring about in life. And he said that you should just simply ask yourself, what do you want? To live life fully, he just said, ask yourself, what do you want? And he said, as soon as you understand the answers to that, and as soon as you start to hope and believe that that's going to happen, he believes that it does. From that moment, you have it. And actually what I loved about it was its simplicity. He did not say you need to create a big, clear vision. He just said you need to kind of almost create these seeds of what do I want? And just to look after them, and that it will blossom, it will flourish. And I love that, and I think it's much more simple than trying to create a big vision for life. It's not that I don't think that's helpful, but the easiest way I can see it is, I think these seeds of intention of what we want, if we plant them into the ground now and come back to them on a regular basis saying, this is what I want, then it will grow into something that is a full life and something that will be good and positive for us. And what it looks like is slightly undefined, and there's excitement in that. For me, That's a lot simpler as a starting point than trying to chase a very clear vision, because one, it can be difficult to do, to actually create the vision, and two, can actually be difficult to make it happen in totality. So intentions. So I'd love you to just sit with a question in a moment, which is, what do I want? Now, where does the answer come from? For me, it comes from the heart more so than the head. Vision and goals can come very much, particularly goals can come from the head, but intentions come from the heart. I did a very powerful intention setting exercise with a lady called Ellen Schilling a couple of years ago, and she called out a very important stat to me, which is that in measuring the electromagnetic field emerging from the heart versus the brain, it's found that like an ECG that measures that kind of field coming from the heart is 60 times stronger than the equivalent measure that comes from the brain. So the intentions that we set from our heart are so more powerful than any goal that we can come up with our head for how to live life fully. So in a second, I'm just going to ask you to think, we're going to think about the question, what do I want? To live life fully, what do I want? Just before we do, I want to quickly differentiate between an intention versus a goal. So I've said the source difference, but just now, just to give you an example, an intention might be, I want to experience adventure in life. That's an example of an intention. A goal could be, I want to go on 3 holidays in the next 12 months. Okay, so it's much more specific, it's much more kind of task or target oriented, but the intention is broader and it's very much heart driven. So our compassionate commitment is like our foundation. It enables us to stay good and grounded, to live life well. Now what I'd like us to do is understand what are the seeds of intention around a life led fully that you want to drop into the ground today. And that by coming back to those seeds of intention as often as you can, just by saying, I want these things, you are cultivating those seeds. And by doing so, they will grow and they will manifest themselves into a life led fully. What it looks like is exciting and somewhat unknown, but that's the power of an intention. So can I ask you just to, for a moment, to join with me, to get comfortable, either with your eyes open or your eyes closed, however you would prefer to do this, with your screen on, with your screen off. And just get relaxed and comfortable in the body. Just for a moment, just noticing the breath. Is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it regular? Just connecting in. Now I invite you to place your left hand on your heart. And I'd love you to sit with this question. What do I want to set as an intention for myself to live life fully? It's a seed or seeds. It might be more than one intention that you're going to plant in the ground today. So what do I want to set as an intention or intentions today to live my life fully? listening to my heart. And as the intention starts to form, or intentions, it could be more than one, see and feel this as a seed that you're now planting in the ground. That's going to be your enduring motivation for living life fully. Perhaps offer this phrase to yourself. I'm going to care for that seed of intention. I'm going to allow it to grow so that I live my life fully. This seed of intention is my enduring motivation in how I want to shape and live my life. Just take a few moments more to sit with this seed of intention that you're planting. Your compassionate commitment to grow and cultivate it. And to create a compassionate commitment to everything that can help you stay good and grounded to live life fully. And very gently start to, before you do, just to sit with the feeling of having this seed formed in your mind, in your heart, and to know that you're taking it away with you from Rise to cultivate, to live life fully. It may be one, it may be more than one. It's absolutely fine. And gently start to bring presence into your body. Just gentle move of the fingers, the toes, the feet. Perhaps loosen the shoulders. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So my overriding wish before I hand over to Barry is that, one, that you can honor those seeds, come back to them, cultivate them, grow them, because they are the foundation. And what comes from that, you can decide what you want to do around the shape of that. However, the seeds are the key. Now that they're in the ground, they are the key. And that compassionate commitment to anything that can help you stay good and grounded along the journey. Barry, hand over to you.
Sure. Thanks, John. I really liked that exercise. The two things. Important, again, not to throw too many things at the wall and for us to keep it simple. So even about the compassionate commitment, it's, yeah, for me, it's a balance between sort of indulgence and like, oh, you know, this like, oh, it's okay, don't bother. It does take a little bit of intention. And then at the other end of the spectrum is sort of striving and pushing. And then the sweet spots in the middle. Just, I think it's nice to know that. So you might be at one or other end of the spectrum. I would be a real indulgent person. And so I need a little bit more kind of strength sometimes. Another person might be quite of a striver and pushy, and a little bit more gentleness if that's the case. Just knowing like which you need in order to find that balance.
Should we just say that we both kind of come from opposite ends of the spectrum a little bit?
Yeah,
Which is
that's
which is why we love working together.
yeah, So yeah, absolutely, it complements each other. And the other piece, I really liked that. Uh, you know, what's the intention, or what matters. Can be really hard to know what it is. Maybe something came up there, or maybe it didn't. Or sometimes what comes up, it mightn't be the thing that's at the very root. So for me, when I was younger, the defining trait I would have had would have been quite competitive, wanting to be the best. And if I looked at myself and I was like, okay, well, what's my value? What are my values? I would have thought at that time, well, you want to be the best. You want to work hard and be the best. And living that way, being very competitive, made me unhappy. It kind of led to anxiety when I was younger. And that wasn't what my value was. Like underneath that, several layers down, was just wanting to be connected and feel okay. You're okay as you are. And then sometimes when you win, where you have this success, it gives a fleeting feeling of being okay. And so it might take a while to really get in touch with what your core value is. And then, like John said, it's a seed, you know, you don't plant it and it doesn't flourish into some oak tree overnight. And the more you're sort of impatient, and I don't know if anyone gardens, but it just takes time. You just like set the conditions and you carefully put it in the ground where there's space, and then you just water it, and it'll kind of follow its own natural way of growing. So yeah, those two things might be helpful just to build a little bit on what John was saying there. And that the one that was coming up for me, which I really liked, was what's important to me is simplicity. That makes life sweet for me when it's simple. I overly complicate it sometimes. So you could even have it, they call it like living in accordance with the vow. This thing that's important for you, you put on a piece of paper. No, this is the thing. This is my North Star. And because we'll continually forget, this is where the mindfulness piece comes in. We'll continually forget. We'll veer off course. Habit will sort of drag us over towards what we've always done. And then we have the moment of, oh yeah, no, this is it. And we sort of come back. So it's where you could think, if the garden analogy is helpful, it's just occasionally taking out a few little weeds that are just flowers growing in the wrong place, but just so that there's space for this seed that you've planted. That might be nice. And then really briefly, I thought I'd share this. This practice of mindfulness awareness came first in week 1, and it's at the center of it. And this is sort of, if you're practicing, this is what happens, where this is a kind of flow for me. It's continually living in my head usually, and number 1, like, oh yeah, this body is here, this heart, this body, and we can know we're sitting even right now. What's that like to just sense your body the heaviness of your body, the position you're in. That's just a moment of awareness, present moment. And then when we're aware, we can choose. Now we can reconnect with our intention if that's it. Or we can choose to savor something pleasant that might be here. This cup of coffee can be savored rather than mindlessly just inhaled. Where we can respond wisely when something challenging happens. And then, like this thing you'll learn if you practice it, and the mind will wander, we'll forget, we'll drift, and then we just have these moments of awareness over and over. Oh yeah, coming back. So it's when we practice mindfulness, it's sort of we're cultivating that muscle, like John with the gratitude. Practice it all the time and it just becomes an inherent trait. Noticing, oh, there, my mind has drifted here. This getting to know my own tendencies and my own patterns, and then I can come back. Do I have, John, 2 or 3 minutes just for something else? I know we're at 9 o'clock exactly.
Well, of course you do, in the sense that we're going on to a post 9, but I guess I am conscious that some people may have to go at this point. So just on the off chance that they do, and we'll continue this conversation in 30 seconds. Basically, for those who do have a hard 9 o'clock finish, just want to say that if you do have to go, we are so grateful for you coming to be part of the Rise journey that we're on. Barry and I have loved it. However, it's only possible by you investing the time in yourself and being willing to allow us to be part of that investment for yourself. So huge thanks. If you do have 2 to 3 minutes to stay around as Barry closes off, fantastic. If not, we've just loved having you. So please feel free to go at any stage that you need to mind your own time.
Yeah, thank you. And no worries at all if you need to hit the road. It's the tiny little piece as well, this whole living fully, or cultivating these traits that stay with us. And last week was this self-compassion break, really useful, and I had this experience last night, so it's really fresh with me, and I just did this spontaneously, so I thought it was worth sharing. Again, it's just living fully, meeting each moment, just these series of moments. And I was giving a session for the Mindfulness Teachers Association on how to teach an online MBSR course last night. And I was leading it away. And after it, I thought, all my colleagues and people more experienced than me. And afterwards, I was like, oh, that went quite well with my feeling. And then I went into the Zoom cloud where it was recorded, and I just was watching it, and I noticed I was rambling a little bit. Wasn't the most, for me, most coherent. I was like, oh, really? And I noticed, hit stop. I didn't like it. And then I went to bed, and I felt like this flat feeling, like, oh, you could have prepared better for that, Barry, and not wanting that experience. And it's like the feeling of the wind being coming out of your sails, or just a bit flat. And because for like a long time I've practiced mindfulness and compassion, like John, it comes quite spontaneously. And I recognized this was uncomfortable. That's the first step in that practice of, okay, the kind of, the visceral feeling in my body of like a little bit of embarrassment and, oh, you're not that good. And then the common humanity piece we mentioned, okay, everyone has this feeling. This is completely normal. We set the bar right up here, and then it doesn't happen, and we aren't perfect, and everyone makes mistakes. And then that recognition just softens everything down, or it gives perspective. It really, I could feel it viscerally in my body as I had that kind of awareness. And then the kindness piece, which is like, okay, yeah, you did your best, and it was quite good. It was okay. And sure, isn't it great that there's a few little things you have to work on, and there's opportunity for growth and everything there. So it's, again, just integrating one of those practices so you can, it just comes into your life. I thought it would be nice just to share that one. Loads of other things we could talk about, but yeah.